Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel released a couple new Deadpool and Wolverine trailers. We've all seen Hugh Jackman return as a version of Wolverine, maybe not the original, but still amazing to see him in a more comic-accurate suit. Especially after he said that he was done playing the character after the Logan movie. Ryan Reynolds sounds like he went full-on stalker on him for a couple years solid, just grinding him down with quips until they found a story that he liked enough to actually come back for. Also a really big payday. But the big surprise here you may have read about recently, apparently Kevin Feige, of all people, tried to stop Hugh Jackman from returning as Wolverine. Normally you'd think he'd be right there with Ryan Reynolds pestering him to come back with a big bag of cash.
What do we have here?
Hugh Jackman and Kevin Feige told the full story of what actually happened behind the scenes, so we'll break it all down because it is pretty wild to hear how chaotic things behind the scenes are at Marvel. It's every bit as crazy as you guessed, for a lot of different reasons, of course. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up. They're going to be starting the press tour soon, so just expect more of those promos where they're not actual trailers, they're just them actually clowning on each other. Sometimes those are even better than actual trailers.
Yeah, don't give him too much attention. That's why I can't be there.
Dogs out. Woo! Woo! Who let them out? No one knows. No one ever solved that mystery.
But all the footage they've given us so far gives you a pretty good idea of the story of Hugh Jackman's return as Wolverine, how this goes down. Some of this was confirmed by what Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have said about the movie too. This main version of Deadpool from the previous Deadpool movies starts the film after a few years' time jump since the end of the last Deadpool movie, Deadpool 2. He's quit being a superhero because he feels like he's not needed anymore. He's in the middle of having a big midlife crisis, so he's needed to get a day job to earn money selling used cars with Peter from Deadpool 2, like the most schlubby thing you could possibly imagine. He's broken up with Vanessa at some point after the events of Deadpool 2 after he used Cable's time travel device to save her from dying. So generally his life is in the crapper. It's meant to be the movie clowning on the fact that Marvel Studios and Disney got the X-Men characters back, rendering all the Fox X-Men completely useless now because Kevin Feige will eventually recast most of them. Then the TVA shows up to arrest him, but not for creating Nexus events, changing the timelines with Cable's time travel device. Matthew Macfadyen's TVA agent Paradox says that in the movie, they don't really care about that much. The reason he's so important is they need him to fix a problem that they can't solve themselves, which does seem kind of sus. Everybody thinks that something's up with him in the trailer. You're probably correct on that front. But he tries to win Deadpool over by blowing a bunch of smoke up his butt and showing him a bunch of his future accidentally, quote-unquote, where he becomes a superhero and big friends with the Avengers characters, saying that he has the potential to become one of the greatest superheroes of all time. I'm skipping over a lot of the stuff in the trailer footage, especially the stuff that they didn't allow online, but I did a whole separate video about that, so I'll post a link for that at the end of this. These are just like the opening scenes of the movie, and they're full of fourth wall breaks.
I am Marvel Jesus.
After calling out Disney, Kevin Feige in real life, also calling out Fox directly, Deadpool, super huge Wolverine fanboy, confirmed. Remember, he's from the main X-Men movie timeline, so he knew all the X-Men. Even though he wasn't good friends with them, he knew them.
Can't tell you, but it does rhyme with Pulverine.
He thinks Wolverine is the greatest member of the X-Men. Somebody should tell him he needs to pick up a version of Jean Grey in Phoenix form and Storm, both way more powerful. Deadpool finds a couple versions of Wolverine while he's looking for the perfect version of Wolverine to help him on his mission, like he finds Patch Wolverine here, until he eventually finds this Wolverine played by Hugh Jackman in another universe. Part of the joke here is that he's running out of time, so he doesn't have more time to jump around other universes and look for better versions of Wolverine, so it's like, okay, you'll do, let's go. He's got a TemPad from the TVA here, so I assume this means he either steals it or they give it to him to complete his mission, and that's what he uses to jump around different universes looking for the perfect version of Wolverine. And this Wolverine's story is really what convinced Hugh Jackman to return when he'd previously retired from the character. Like, he was so swole for so many years, it looks like he hadn't touched a carb for decades. This Wolverine is meant to be the opposite from his original Wolverine from all the X-Men movies from Logan. A Wolverine who's a total failure, is far from being superhero as you can get. A Wolverine, as the bartender says, that everyone kind of hates on his planet.
Whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40.
You have to imagine how much he'd have to drink for that to actually happen just because of his healing factor. Like, he'd have to drink gallons of alcohol. Fun fact too, his healing factor actually works slower with the adamantium in his body. He's more powerful without the adamantium. Ryan Reynolds revealed the story of the movie changed quite a bit when they were first getting started. Kevin Feige, for instance, rejected 20 different pitches for Deadpool 3, not all of them involving Wolverine. There was even a version of Deadpool 3 that Fox was going to make back in the day before the big Disney buyout. But it wasn't until they came up with the version of the movie you see in the trailers that Hugh Jackman agreed to come back and they actually started filming. And the thing that excited him enough to come back, besides the extra large payday, and it is a lot of money, was playing a terrible Wolverine that through the course of the movie redeems himself. Also the pure fact that it wasn't the original version that also just died in the Logan movie. It gave him an opportunity to play a Wolverine with a totally different personality that they can take in a totally different direction during Avengers Secret Wars eventually. And it allowed them to get around the timeline problem with him dying in Logan and never actually wearing the yellow suit at any point. Even though a lot of you will remember, technically in the Logan movie, during a deleted scene, he reveals to one of the kids that all of X-23's comic books about his X-Men team back in the day were real, like they were biographical stories, meaning that they all wore these suits. So technically, the original Wolverine did wear a version of a comic-accurate suit, just not on screen. But when they all started working on the story of the movie, like Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman also got to work on the story too, with Sean Levy, the director, the writers, the ink wasn't totally dry on Hugh Jackman's contract yet. Kevin Feige gets involved because obviously he has to sign on the dotted line, sign all the checks. Kevin Feige said that he actually tried to stop him from trying to come back, like he fully tried to pump the brakes on the movie that you see in the trailers with them running around together. Normally this would sound crazy because bringing Hugh Jackman back to play an even more comic-accurate Wolverine for what looks like a mini Avengers movie but with legacy X-Men actors coming back like X-Men No Way Home style, a bunch of other Fox Marvel characters too. Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel universe. Sounds like a license to print money, like just back the dump trucks of cash up to the Marvel lot. They have another hit, finally. Why would Kevin Feige try to pump the brakes on something like that? The way that he tells it personally, he thought that the Logan movie was perfect, amazing arcs for all the characters, an amazing ending. I'm in agreement there. And as we've seen, most long-running series, most movie franchises do not have good endings. Avengers Endgame and the Logan movie are kind of exceptions in that fact, in that they were meant to be the end of eras of franchises and wound up sticking the landing. Sort of like a mythic great white buffalo, like, oh my god, we actually did it. So Kevin Feige was trying to tell Hugh Jackman to not undo what was already perfect. Like, you can't get better than perfect. You can only go down from there. And I think that's the point where they changed the story of Deadpool and Wolverine to make this Wolverine be a different version from another universe and completely avoid touching anything from the main X-Men timeline, which also would have trampled on the Logan movie. When they actually started filming the movie, the story was totally different. Apparently, it was Deadpool jumping around inside the main X-Men movie timeline a bunch. What they changed about that was to mostly shift a lot of the story to the Void Planet from Loki, avoiding the main X-Men timeline. But that is where the main Deadpool comes from at the beginning of the movie. So like he starts in the main X-Men timeline, then eventually goes to the TVA. There's a little bit of him jumping around to different universes, but then they wind up on the Void for most of the movie. It sounds like that's when Kevin Feige was finally on board with Hugh Jackman actually coming back and started signing all these very, very big checks. Like, okay, fine, go ahead, go do your thing.
Thank you, Kevin Feige.
Love you, Kevin Feige. Thank you, MCU.
Speaking of which, like I said, he rejected over 20 pitches for the new Deadpool 3 movie that Ryan Reynolds gave him. He said that one of the ideas was doing Deadpool 3 for under $10 million as like an ultra low budget Sundance Festival independent kind of movie. Maybe at some point he'll reveal more about what some of those other failed pitches were. One of the other big things that convinced Hugh Jackman to come back was they gave him a lot of creative control over his Wolverine in the movie. He was a big part of actually working out the story of his character. So he's not just an actor for hire, I think he even got a producer credit, and I think that's also how they justify giving him the extra large payday. He's basically meant to be a co-lead in the movie with Deadpool, not just a cameo, like he's almost in the entire movie. And it involved him also returning for Avengers Secret Wars down the road, like a multi-film deal. But as far as I've seen, it's only those two movies. Apparently, he's not supposed to be in the new X-Men movie that Marvel's working on right now, like the solo X-Men film. And if you have not been watching X-Men 97, you should definitely start right now because it's a total banger, but it's a totally different actor playing that Wolverine. Those episodes are set in a totally different universe they're referring to as the 90s universe because all the Marvel characters from the different 90s Marvel TV shows exist there together, and it's still the late 90s in the present day of that universe. That's how they get away with all the cameos without messing with any of the timelines or continuity in the MCU movies. Speaking of cameos, I know there were a lot of questions about Deadpool showing up during X-Men 97 at some point. I might do a video about that sometime soon because there have been so many cameos, and the season 1 finale is this week, expecting even more cameos during that. But everyone, let me know in the comments if you want to see Hugh Jackman show up as his Wolverine in other Marvel movies besides Deadpool and Wolverine and Secret Wars. Personally, I'm totally fine with Marvel eventually recasting a younger actor to play Wolverine who can do it for way longer, but I'm hoping they wait till long after Secret Wars to do that. Like, just let Hugh Jackman show up in Secret Wars with all the other people that are coming back, and then after that you can do whatever you want. Also because they have that big Marvel reboot that they're going to be doing after Secret Wars, so I think it'll logically make a lot more sense why different actors show up playing some of the characters too. Real big reminder, my X-Men 97 episode 10 video will post next week after they release it. We also just got another first look teaser for the Thunderbolts movie and what's going on with Winter Soldier and the Sentry during that, so I'll try to do a video for that soon too. But there's a bunch of big stuff coming up, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here to learn about that secret brand new footage from Deadpool and Wolverine that they didn't release online, and click here for all my X-Men 97 episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.